Welcome to the Therapist Uncut podcast, where off-the-clock therapists who happen to be friends share their uncensored thoughts about real life. Join us weekly in spreading positivity and making mental health relatable through casual conversation, inspirational stories, and real talk with friends who happen to be therapists. Please welcome your co-hosts, Nik Young and Alyssa Najera.
All right, Therapist Uncut listeners, we have a treat for you today. I know a lot of you are probably somewhat local, but we also know we have listeners across the country. And so this episode today is going to apply to both. And we are super stoked about the content. It's something that Alyssa and I want to fully get behind and support. So we're very excited to be here with Jeff Pishney, founder and CEO of Love Our Cities.
We always say we're excited every time we do these, and we genuinely are, to talk about the things that we're bringing to you. And the purpose of this podcast, you guys know, is to make mental health relatable and talk about community-wide things. And what we're talking about today with Jeff is definitely relatable, not just to our local cities, but for all of you listening cross country. And I think that's what brings the most excitement, is we get to hear the background story and the mission to what I know you guys have seen. If you've ever been driving down the road and there's those little picket signs in people's yards or on the corner, or there's these volunteer opportunities that say love and then fill in the blank with whatever your city is.
Yep.
This is the guy. So Let's go ahead and let Jeff go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay. Well, Jeff Pishney, born and raised in Iowa, and came out here to California it'll be 28 years ago.
So that means you're officially used to the 120 degree summers now?
Totally.
Okay.
Totally. and I don't miss the 80 degrees humidity back in Iowa. I'll take the 100 or whatever degrees California, way over that. Sweaty humidity.
So true.
Humidity. And I just love California. This is totally my home. I mean, so I married out here and kids, and man, I love going to the city, the ocean, everywhere around here is just, I love it. You don't get that in Iowa. Although I love my home, but I love my home more here. But yeah, I've been here and been different roles and different jobs, but certainly what I've settled here is just trying to inspire and mobilize as many people as possible from all different backgrounds, beliefs, political parties, or it doesn't really matter. Just this is one thing we all can agree upon. Let's love our city. Let's love where we live, and let's work together for the common good of making our cities, our communities, the best it can be. And I think if we do it together, and obviously in a civil way, I really believe that we have way more in common than maybe we think that we do. I think we have so much more in common, but so much of our world and our country certainly is dividing us right now. But we have a unity message here, and not just a nice message, but you can do something about it, like practical. And it's kind of fun. And you're making a difference. Everyone doing it together is making a big difference. So I'm super passionate about making our cities the best they can be.
And for those listening, everything that Jeff just said sounds great, but let me tell you, he's actually doing it. We can speak from experience. Jeff is doing it. He is making this happen. And I can speak from I personally live in Modesto, which is where Love Our Cities started. And I remember that first year that you got the signs out and about in town, right? And I remember a couple weeks going by of seeing them here and there, and then it starts to resonate, like, hold on, what is this thing, right? Then you Google, which you talked about in your book, right? It sends you to the web, and then you figure out what it is. And since then, we've tried to be involved, and it's I very much enjoyed reading your book to see kind of it's more than just that day, right? There's so much more, and that's part of what we're here to talk about. But Jeff's doing it.
No, we mentioned the book. Is the book available yet?
Yes, it is.
Look,
there it is.
Here,
right
Jeff,
there.
talk about it here.
You go to Amazon and just type in Love Our Cities, or if you go to Barnes & Noble or whatever your favorite book site, it's on all book sites. Amazon seems to be the one that obviously most of us go to. But man, it's been quite a journey to write a book, man.
Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, it's not an easy undertaking.
Well, and I'm pretty ADD. I don't sit very long, if you haven't noticed. So this is even hard for me. Just to sit here for a half an hour, whatever long we're going to be here for. I just got to move. That's just how I'm wired. And so to put it down on paper, and I didn't do it alone. Certainly had a lot of people, and Eric Jung, who helped really start this thing with me, was a huge help, and others as well. But man, we're really blown away by the response so far. Just the amount of people that have bought this book from everywhere, all over the world. Like, it's crazy how this message is getting out there. And again, I think it's the timeliness of the division that is out there, having a message of unity and something that no one is protesting right now. And that's volunteerism. No one is against volunteerism. No one's ticked off at volunteerism and cursing at volunteer. I mean, everyone is like, let's volunteer is a good thing. Let's work together on that. And so I think this message is resonating. And not just a message, but again, we kind of walk you through practically how to do it. Like, here's like a plug and play. Like, this is how to do it. And yeah, you have your own autonomy a little bit, and you have your own creativity. But here's kind of, this was 15 years ago when we first started this. We have a little bit of a track record. So I'm super encouraged how this book has got out there, and hopefully it'll get out there more. And we just want to help. There's a lot of cities in the world. There's a lot of cities. So
truly are.
We're only helping. We're helping over 100 right now. There's, our goal is over 1,000 here in the coming years. But there's a lot more than 1,000 cities in the world. So we'll see where this thing goes.
Well, it's already taken off. Did you expect it to take off in the way that it has?
Absolutely not.
I was pleasantly surprised.
No. And I share, in my story here is I was working at a church at that time, and I was just so frustrated of people are just writing checks for other people to do it in the community. You write a check for Salvation Army to do their job, but why can't I just know we needed to be out there. It's not good just to sit behind a desk or whatever, or in your home and just write checks for others to do it. Like, how do we all get involved and help, again, I believe when we're helping people, maybe it helps us more than helps them. You know what I mean? Like, we become the better person. We're talking about mental health here. Like, we become the better people when we get our attention off ourselves and on others. Some of the best therapy there is in the world is volunteerism. By focusing on others and just helping others, it does us so much good. And so I think that was really the genesis of a lot of this, is just let's try to get out there. And it didn't start off very well. I mean, as I shared,
it was a little rocky.
I was like, yeah, I'm trying to save my job. Like, this isn't working. No one's, cares. But then there's something that resonated, I think, when we said, hey, this was like the recession was going on here, and it was really tough days in Modesto. And we said, instead of doing a monthly kind of a thing, let's do it one time. Let's see what happens. And let's brand this thing in a fun way. I love New York, what we do is not original.
Yeah. Yep.
But and so we say, hey, what if I love Modesto? And at that time, and even today, but certainly 15 years ago, an I love Modesto shirt might get you beat up.
It would definitely catch some attention.
Oh, how we've evolved.
I love Modesto. Who would wear an I love Modesto shirt? And certainly I share in the book how I remember when these two younger people, college students, had these Modesto Sucks t-shirts on, black shirts, white writing. So that was kind of the inspiration as well. And and again, I just thought maybe if, some people around me would, my friends and some others, we can try to inspire others. But I had no idea when we did our first Love Modesto when over 1,200 people showed up, and just then, you're right. I think maybe around that time it was like, whoa, there's something here. If we make it easy for people to sign up and make it easy to identify the different options of where you can volunteer and be organized and be really clear in directions and all that, people will do it. I think most people are good people. I really believe that. Most people are good people in our community, and they want to help and they want to contribute. They want to do something beyond just what helps themselves. They want to help others. But man, we just got to make it easy for them.
That's you can't make it confusing. You break down the barriers to getting involved.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you remove a lot of those barriers.
And I think having, website and just making it easy, like our branding, the date, and then the website. That's all you got to worry about.
So Alyssa and I are both from cities that are actively employing this model, right? So for me, love Modesto, Alyssa, love Oakdale. But for those listening who maybe live in a city where they don't know what this is, or even a local individual who's maybe seen the signs but doesn't know.
Hasn't Googled it yet.
It hasn't. Yeah. If you were to briefly describe, and then we'll go larger too, because I know it's evolved. But if you take love Stanislaus County or love Modesto or love Oakdale, what is it?
That's a good question that we get asked a lot. Like, it's a nice tagline, love, but what really is it? And I like to equate us in this way here. We're like, I feel like, and we've been called this, we're like the Uber of community involvement. So there's people with needs, there's people that have needs. We're about connecting the two, and not just for a day. The one day is not the end goal. It's a great way to get started. It's a great way to get people maybe off the couch who's never done a volunteer thing before. And believe me, that was me growing up. I didn't even think about volunteerism. My family was the farthest thing from our mind. I don't think we've ever did any volunteer work growing up, honestly. So I'm new somewhat to it as well. But I think if you look at us is that, throughout the year, we want to connect people. There are needs out there, and we just want to make it easy for people who want to help out. And put them in categories. If it's one, you work with those with disabilities, work with those homeless, work with schools, or whatever the category is that you want to work with. We want to make it easy to make that connection with the right person in that organization. So to get you guys connected and volunteering right away. And so I think it really is, looking at the needs of our community and trying to meet those needs the best we can, and we do that in a lot of different ways. LoveStanislausCounty.org. You'll see all the different ways and the programs we have. If you break it all down, we're about connecting people who can help with those who need help.
Absolutely. And for those that live in a city that Love Our Cities is in, you might, if you're in the early stages of kind of learning what the organization's about, it might seem that it is a one-day event, right? Once yearly volunteer event. I like the way you describe it as an event, because it really is. There's the lead up to it, right? There's the signage, there's the community energy behind it. And then you have this one day in which, in our community, how many volunteers did you have this most recent event?
Yeah, right around 3,500 in Modesto. Oh. Now, again, that pre-COVID, we had over 7,000 volunteers. So it's interesting how, and the year before we had less than that. So things are going to come back. But I don't know if they'll ever be like, these are interesting days. People just really aren't just, movies and entertainment, all that has rebounded tremendously. But a lot of service clubs and congregations and volunteer efforts, people are a little more slower to get involved in all that. But I'm hoping now that we're hopefully post whatever we were, that people will engage even more. And I think if we have this compelling vision, if we have these compelling needs, if we do a good job of leading, people will follow.
Absolutely.
Well said.
This episode is really close to mine and Alyssa's hearts in terms of we've got episodes just about community, right? And what that means. And I know during COVID, we had an episode of, what are some cool things that have come from this? Part of what we talked about was that connection that we made in our neighborhoods and such, where maybe we didn't spend as much attention prior and that kind of thing. But Love Our Cities is a way to continue this into the future. All right. So like as Jeff said, hopefully we are transitioning out of what has been over the last couple of years. But how do we maintain some of those positive lessons that we learned, right? That people matter regardless of, all the differences that divide us. How can we find some commonality and make the world, starting with our cities, a better place?
And I appreciate what you said, Jeff, around I think we have more in common than people think that we do. We're each from our own city, our own community, and these are all messages and practical steps that are applicable to every community. It's just a matter of rolling them out. And that commonality and unity, like Nik said, is everything. During the pandemic, post a pandemic, pre-pandemic. And I think it's what's going to bring all of us back together to find our balance again, to find that giving part in us and that kindness part that you highlight. And I I remember when Nik and Stacy were like, hey, what if we have Jeff Pishney on the podcast and we can talk about Love Our Cities? And I was like, what? You guys know about that? Like, how do we get there? Of course, because it's so applicable to all of our current community and our neighboring communities. And I wonder, if anybody has volunteered in this one-day event, they know exactly what it looks like. They're probably visualizing it right now. What could this one day potentially look like for a community?
Yeah, for somebody who doesn't live in a community, which it's already present.
Well, I like to paint the picture is first of all, for this to be successful, you got to have a kickoff time. Like you plan a one day, you got to be in a neutral location in your town too, by the way, whatever that neutral center of town park or whatever location that everyone knows and there's parking but they know where it's at. And it's a great place to have a gathering. I'm telling you, like you could just go out and volunteer and just get people at the organizations. But when there's something about when cities gather ahead of time and you see around all the beautiful diversity in our cities, and it's so cool. It makes you so proud to live where you live. And then you get different local businesses or other businesses apart where they, Starbucks will give you all the free coffee you need, or Chick-fil-A or whatever the different, you get all the free food and refreshments, just get it started that morning. You got fun, you get the fire department out, you got all the fire trucks and police cars and kid-friendly atmosphere and bounce house or whatever it is. That's not the point of the day. I get that. But again, to start it off right is you see your city gather, you see your city leaders, your county leaders, you just see, again, all different kinds of people there before you go out to go to your project location, I think is the biggest win. But again, the point of the day is to go out to project location. And so therefore, you have all your projects, you have your project leaders down there, and then people meet with you sign up ahead of time, of course. You go to the website, you sign up ahead of time, but then you come downtown or whatever your location is, and then you go out. And by the way, you're only volunteering about around lunchtime, around noon. A lot of our projects, even a lot of our cities, they'll have an after barbecue or something, free barbecue for everyone, or projects will have, so if you volunteer together to eat together, lunch together, it's a pretty cool thing because you're already bonded a little bit, and to eat together is kind of a cool thing as well. But you're not volunteering all day long. This is a one morning out of 52 Saturday mornings a year. Can you come out one morning, and that's only your commitment. Now, I believe what will happen, and it's happening to a whole lot of people, is that people will want to continue to volunteer, right? You get down to that Salvation Army or that Habitat for Humanity or whatever the project is. You get to meet the people, you get to meet the family that you're helping. You're going to want to go back, and your family's going to want to go back. And so many people do. And that's really kind of the goal, is the ongoing part of it. But yeah, that in a sense, that's the day. This isn't rocket science here. It's gathering, it's promoting it and gathering, sending people off to volunteer. And each project has a project leader, and they get you organized. They set you up. You don't got to worry about anything. And then you're done around noon. And then you can go on with your life, But I do think it will infect you. It will go, wow, that felt good. That felt right to do this. And I need to do this more often in my life. Our family, we need to do this together more often in our life, because this is good for us, and it's also good for them and our community as a whole.
Absolutely. And I mean, we could spend an entire episode on the psychological, the sociological aspects behind it, but just having that rallying event in the beginning. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about it. If it was just going straight to your projects are spread all over town. Yeah. So you might see 8 other people volunteering on this Love Modesto morning, when in actuality, when you show up to that rally, there's thousands of people in your town. And so again, so many factors behind why that's so motivating and inspiring, but it definitely is.
And it's all about building. I mean, I'm hearing it's also about building relationships, right? You're connecting with people that maybe you wouldn't have connected with on your day-to-day routine or whatever your obligations are at work. You're connecting with the rest of the community, and you're planting these little seeds, right? If I go to my project, I planted a seed here. If I come back to the barbecue and actually hang out, I'm planting more seeds here. And that's how we build community. So I love that you started with saying, yes, Love My City is a one-day event, but it's really, and I always think of Nik and Stacy when I use this word, but it's really the catalyst for the rest of the year, right? Like this is just the kickoff for the rest of the time. And for those of us who don't know much about it, we may not have gotten that message initially. So I appreciate that you made that very clear, that the goal is to have this be a continuous effort throughout the year and throughout the future. So thank you for starting with that.
And I think something that I enjoyed most about this book was really getting the macro picture. Even living in one of these communities, I knew there was more to it than just the day of events, right? I know you have these additional programs running throughout the year, but really reading the book gave me just kind of a picture, right? A graph as to what all of this looks like. And I want to make an attempt to kind of describe who you are for the community, and you can correct me, or we'll figure out if I got it right. So the way I understand Love Our Cities, and particularly in the city you're operating, is that you are kind of the hub. So other organizations or community members, anybody who has a need can come to you and become a project that Love Our Cities or Love Modesto is then, like you said, you're the Uber, you're the connector. So then you bring all these community members who desire to give back and desire to just support others. You connect them to various projects, and they're not necessarily your projects, they're community needs. And you're really you're doing all the connecting work, is my understanding. Is that accurate?
That really is. I love that. And I think even beyond connecting, we're championing these other amazing organizations and projects in our community. Like we love them, but we can't organize everything. I mean, the best projects are those where there's already a leader. Often it's nonprofits where there's already a leader in place. So there's sustainability built in already. There's already ways to continue to volunteer. And we don't want to do projects if it's a one-off, like if it's just clean up an alley. Well, what's the point? Unless you're working with the neighborhood. You want to work with the neighbor. So I think that we want to be really diligent on make sure we have the right kind of projects and the right reputable organizations, to work with. But when we do, we want to champion their efforts throughout the year. They have a fundraiser coming up. They've got another volunteer thing coming up. I mean, we're behind them. We want to see them succeed. When they succeed, we succeed, and we all succeed in our community. So yeah, connecting as well as championing for sure.
Awesome.
And Jeff, let's say I wanted to participate, but I'm not available on this single day event. How could I do that? How could I be a part of this still?
You need to rearrange your schedule. No, I'm
Step one.
Yes. Well, again, a lot of these projects, there are some drop-off things, and there's collection of items and all that can be done the week before for sure. We've had projects on different days. They haven't always had the same success because you're not experiencing you're not having the whole Love Oakdale, Love Modesto experience in a way, because you're not showing up at the beginning, and you just going somewhere and then you're coming home and you didn't really meet a lot of people. So it's not a huge win in that way. All of our projects, again, have ways to continue to volunteer. And so what we do is try to connect people to say, listen, maybe you can't make it April 27th, but the next month, quite likely, that project that you want to do, they have an opportunity to volunteer next month, or the following month, or the next week or so. I mean, every organization is different, but the reason why they're on here because there's ways to continue to volunteer. And so even if you can't make that one, you got opportunities that further opportunities for sure throughout the year.
And I think that's one of my favorite parts about this whole thing is that you remove these barriers. All right. Like you said, so many people, I think, want to give back, but maybe don't know the first place to start, or they've heard of the major names, right? Salvation Army, right? I mean, a lot of people are aware of that household name, but I know even myself was not aware of all of the different avenues for service and to give back and to better the community. And so I think something really cool about Love Our Cities is that when you do, for example, go to the website, there are so many opportunities and they're categorized, right? Yeah. So in your book, you talk about the different personalities, that you're the go-getter and the networker, somebody that maybe isn't as outgoing. Yeah. There are so many volunteer opportunities that would be a better fit for your personality. There's just, I love the categorization. Our kids were getting excited about that too, right? Well, Mom, let's read the next category, and Stacy's going off and they're picking things that sound fun to them. And again, it's about the people that you're supporting. But in this case, it's cool to get the kids excited about it involved, right? Alyssa, I know this last year we did a project in addition to the main one where it was a take home type of arrangement where that day you picked up the project, but then you were able to work on it if you weren't available that day. So for example, we stuffed bears for one of the local crisis centers, I believe. So there are opportunities for, if you physically are unable to get out there mobily, there's ways to get involved still.
Speaking of mobily, one of the things you started with, Jeff, was saying mobilizing this movement, right? How do we get it across different communities? And you mentioned that the book is really has a far reach right now, not just country, but like worldwide. And I'm curious, and Nik, let me know if I'm jumping ahead, but I'm curious, what does the evolution of this like single project 15 years ago look like now?
I remember I was traveling, I was in Indonesia, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. And right when this thing was starting, I remember the guy I was with, he saw this thing, Love Modesto, and he saw, this was kind of the only city at that time. And then Love Ceres and Escalon and what was the other one? And Riverbank were the year 3. Those are the next cities. And he's like, this idea of love, whatever the city name, just works. He goes, this city in Indonesia, this village over here, this, you name it, all around the world. And the guy told me, he says, listen, I've been everywhere. This idea works anywhere. I don't know if you realize this, but this could really take off when people have pride in their city. And it's not just a nice slogan. It's actually practically doing something about it. And it's unifying. It's getting as many people together as possible. This has real potential. And I wasn't even thinking about that. I'm just thinking of what's going on, at home here. But in that time, it's weird how the calls, and the emails, I mean, every week I get, contacted from other cities that are saying, hey, can you help us? We're interested in this. We heard about this. And that book has certainly helped, no doubt about it, to get that out more. I don't know where. I mean, I know we just onboarded Love Hanoi in Vietnam. And they have a strategic plan in place, or they're getting it in place to help 150 cities in Vietnam to do Love, their city name as well. Mm-hmm. And so it's an interesting, we almost see ourselves as more of an umbrella kind of organization. We don't, legally, I don't want to be responsible for everything happening because I'm not there, but each city, we have a process here. We have a guy that goes, if you want to get on board, obviously you have to have a legal organization behind you. You got to have insurance. There's some things you have to have in place here. But I think we've kind of, we figured this out. Like we know how to get you going here. If we got the right people on board, people have influence in their city that can get people together. This can work anywhere. And so, cities in Australia. I was on a podcast in Australia and just talking about this. I don't know where this is all going, but I do know this. I love home here. I love Modesto. I really do love this community. And this is our working model, and if all the other cities go away, I'm still here. So in a sense, this is my priority, is to make sure my home and where I live, where my kids are growing up, where they're going to school. I mean, this whole community here is a big deal to me. And so that's why we started 2 organizations. We have a Love Stanislaus County that's focusing on home here. We have a home board. We have our own staff. We have this thing going here. And then Love Our Cities is a whole other organization that focuses on cities outside of our area. It's still resources, the technology and all that is supporting what's going on here local. But Love Our Cities is kind of the mother, that is really taking care of everyone here. And so I'm doing both. But I got a staff for both and I got a board for both that's passionate about, going farther and a board here that's passionate about going deeper. And so awesome. Trying to make it work that way.
Well, and having the foresight, because I think you even mentioned this in your book, right? But so many people have the grand ideas, but how do you actually get them to fruition? And so it's cool to hear you focused, recognizing the need that you can't do both simultaneously, right? So there has to be strategy involved, and one is focused on the here and the local, and one is focused a little bit more globally. So the Love Our Cities aspect, are you taking more of kind of a consultant role for these cities?
My role is really the kind of the point person. People want to, I'm more how do I say this? The evangelist in a sense. Like I'm out there, and people are calling. I think I am, and I need to be the first person. But once they start getting on board, then I got a team of people that are helping me. Say, you figure out getting them on the website, answering the questions, getting them settled. Let me be the one. I thought I was going to be the other way around, but it feels like I'm best utilized being the one out in the front and just charging ahead. And I haven't really done it that well, in a sense. Like, I haven't had the time because we're trying to do what we're here locally. So we're trying to figure out how we can, raise more funds so we can hire more people, so I can be more freed up just to do more of that. I think that's what I get a lot of joy in, is talking to cities everywhere and say, wow, tell me about your city. Tell me about what's going on, and say, how could this work there? How could this, and just walking them through how it could work. But then when it gets to the details, give it to someone else. Because
sounds like a solid process to me.
Right?
I'm a visionary. I'm a dreamer. There's a book called Rocket Fuel. And it's a really amazing book. And so every great organization has a visionary, and it has an operations has an integrator, an operations person, basically. And it's about working together. I don't do operations well. I'm not a great manager. I'm managing staff, hiring the right staff. I'm just not good at it, to be honest with you. But man, I've got a dream, and I want to just go out there and make the biggest difference I can. I love to share it with people. That's who I am.
So Alyssa,
I think,
you and Anthony are coming to mind. Who's the visionary and who's the operations?
There you go.
I think, you know what, Jeff, as you talk, I'm like, man, the three of us have so much in common. The way you started off, you talk about the visionary. We always have to have someone that pulls us back down, because we float so high up in our dreams.
Stacey and Anthony.
Which is why they're always in our ear on these episodes.
Oh, that's so funny.
And I love it. So the way you said it was perfect. And I said that process actually sounds great, because you want to play to your strengths, right? If this side is not your strength, then how do I develop a team that can handle all of that so you can continue to do what you do well, which is, and I heard Nik say it, be the face of the organization and pull people in and get people intrigued and curious and asking questions, so we can then help give you the resources to help you duplicate it or replicate it in your area.
I mean, you name the organization or the business or whatever. Great organizations have great leaders, and great leaders are not good at everything. They're not. Now, a lot of great leaders think they are, and so that pride gets in the way, and so they can't admit where they're not great at, and then surround themselves with people who are great at it, and therefore the organization will truly be the best they can be when you have the right people in the right places. But I think a lot of great leaders, especially ones who founded something or they started something, they have a hard time letting go. And that's not me. I mean, maybe it was originally. I was like, oh man, we got to get the right. But now, honestly, I'm just realizing that there's some areas that I'm just not great at, and I just don't love doing. I don't care about insurance. I know we need to have it, but I don't care about all that. Reading through all those. Forget it, let someone who's good at that, and human resources, all that kind of stuff. But I think, for what you guys are doing here, or for what anybody's doing out there, is, just really be honest with yourself on what you're wired to do, what you're passionate about, what you're really good at, and then the things that you're not, and try to surround yourself with people who are good at those things. Then I'm telling you, everything will go to the next level for sure.
I love it.
Great
advice. Heard it from Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I want to clue back in. You talked about just being the one that gets cities excited. If there's somebody listening to this right now that is hearing this and is excited and is in a city that is not yet a part of this movement, what can they do? What's the first step?
Yeah. First step, go to loveourcities.org. Is just look at what we do, how we do it. And it just kind of walks you through just an overview of how we can best support your city. And then I would say this, and then we have a city leaders page that I'll lead you to. If you're interested in that and you contact me, say, I want to go deeper. I want to see the steps here. We got the steps, we've got this plug and play ready to go here for you. I want to encourage cities. You're not going to be where we're at. We've been doing it 15 years. So like this last year, we had over 30 people that came from around the country. They observed Love Modesto. And every year we have people that come from everywhere that observe it. And a lot of them get overwhelmed and they say, man, I can't pull this off. We've been doing it for a few years. For the first year though, instead of having 100 projects, maybe you'll have 5. Just get the thing off the ground. If you build it, they'll come, That's my Iowa reference if you didn't catch that.
Yeah, I got you.
And so So, you just get the thing out there, and that's kind of, you remember, Nik, like that first Love Modesto, where when we put those signs out, actually it was the third year, but in a sense it was in many ways the first year.
Early years.
Yes. When you put those signs up, and we only had, a few projects, we had 8 projects the first year. But what happened was it just began a hunger, I think, in a lot of people, like, we want more. Like, this is just starting here. And if it's successful, and it will be, if it's successful, it's going to grow the second year. Second year, you're going to have 10 projects or 20 projects, and numbers will grow. I mean, and so I think that's why I want to encourage people is like this. Again, this isn't huge. This isn't like brain surgery, like education here. This is, there's projects out there. Identify what are the projects, it's coming up with a date. It's promoting it, get the word out on it. And it's executing on that day. And on that day, you got project leaders are making the day happen. Once we send them off at our kickoff, I'm not, for the next 3 hours, I'm not worrying about anything, because I know they're in good hands with the wonderful project leaders that are out there doing it. And so, yeah, go to our website, and then, you can contact me, through our website, or email me at jeff@loveourcities.org. And then let's have a conversation, and let's see where this can go.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff. We appreciate you making time to be on our podcast today and sharing with our entire audience about the entire Love Cities. Now I'm trying to separate your organizations. Love Stanislaus County, and then Love Cities, which is more of the global project.
Yes. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you for the honor and the privilege it is just to share the story and try to encourage as many people as possible to love where they live.
And Jeff, in like 3 sentences or less, if our audience took only one thing from today, what would you want them to know?
I mean, I think I just said it. Love where you live, and not just make it a theme or a motto or a slogan, but practically do something about it. You can't do everything, but do one thing. Volunteer one place. Love your neighborhood where you live. Pick up the garbage at your local park. Just do one thing. And I'm telling you, you're going to feel better about it. And obviously your city is going to be better for it.
You heard it. And I can vouch for it as somebody who lives in Jeff's town. And over the last 15 years, I've seen a shift in the way people talk about Modesto, right? From 15 years ago, people wearing Modesto Sucks shirts to now it's not uncommon to see somebody walking around with a Love Modesto shirt from the last volunteer event. But just hearing the way in which the community talks about itself has shifted over time, and more people have gotten on board. And I'm sure a large piece of that has to do with what you've brought to town. So we appreciate you.
And if you're listening, thank you, Jeff. And for our listeners listening, if you have participated, drop on that Love Modesto, Love Your City gear, tag us. We want to see it. Show Jeff some love. As always, thank you for allowing us into your lives and helping us make mental health relatable and part of your everyday conversation. Until the next episode.
Thank you for joining Therapists Uncut, a production of AMP Smart Business. To learn more about Therapists Uncut and stay up on upcoming episodes, please subscribe and follow us on social media. As a reminder, although the Therapists Uncut co-hosts are licensed therapists, they are not your therapists. This podcast is not intended to substitute professional mental health counseling. If you need professional therapy, please contact your local provider or primary care provider. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of Therapists Uncut.